Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. The Reba Rear End Tank 300. This is a real tank. Hello, may I ask if it's insurance? I seem to have a rear-end collision. May I ask what car is on the other side? Tank. Is the tank 300? No, the full name seems to be called the M1A2 SEP4 tank. On the first day of the new car on the road, Reba, who was happy to bring up a new car, directly ended up with a tank. Faced with full responsibility, we had to call the insurance company to claim compensation. If the paint surface is knocked off, you can compensate a little over $1,000,000 yuan. With the strongest hand rubbing system, Luran touched the 1 centimeter paint surface that had been rubbed off on the tank and turned his head to the insurance company, saying, 1 million. Are you joking? Aren't you just a model? However, in the face of huge compensation, the insurance company refused to accept it, but at this moment, Luran silently aimed his tank gun at them. This is an M1A2 SEP4 tank with a cost of $44.43 million. How about you feel the authenticity yourself? Looking at the pitch-black muzzle, the insurance company and Reba people were numb. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. I want to become a man with hands rubbing high. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. I want to become a man with hands rubbing high. Congratulations to the host, successfully completed the construction of tanks M1A2 and SPV4. After completing all body tests, achievement rewards will be automatically distributed in the system Backpack Magic City, an abandoned warehouse located in the suburbs. The pleasant yet icy sound of the Imperial Sister echoed in the warehouse. Wait for me. The only figure in the factory crawled out from the bottom of the tank, with dust all over the dusty cheeks. Why didn't you mention the need for testing before? Where should I go to test? Luran's face was bitter as he got up and patted the dust on his body. You should know that I have stretched my firepower to the limit. If we fire, the power will be 100% targeted by the military district. The system in his mind ignored Luran's bitterness, and he continued to complain very displeased about it. Isn't your system too irresponsible? Can't you explain the prerequisites for the task clearly? Should I find a novel to show you what a responsible system is? Luran, who was roast, raised his hand and slapped the tank armor. Attempt to engage in a good tug and tug with the strongest hand rubbing system that awakened in my mind 3 months ago. 3 months ago, Luran was just a 22-year-old aspiring, hemorrhoid, youth who had just graduated from college. After failing to gnaw on the elderly and being kicked out of the house by my parents, I unexpectedly awakened to this strongest hand massage system. The strongest hand rubbing system, as the name suggests, is that Luran can use his own hands to crush any object. On the first day of activating the system, Luran permanently locked the direction of the system in the direction of technological armament. As for the reason the technology armed technology trees later exoskeleton armor, mounted robots, and truly flying aircraft carriers. These things are really in line with Luran's love. Luran. No one can say no to Gundam. I want to become a man with a high hand rub. So in order to one day develop a truly drivable Gundam, Luran embarked on a 3-month research and development journey. Starting from various home appliance and car modifications, gradually improving his experience, Luran finally succeeded in creating the world's first M1A2 and SPV4 tanks 3 months later today. This Eagle Sauce is currently the most advanced tank, but due to its high cost, it was not produced for a long time. It took Luran 2 months to handcraft it. Thinking about the past 2 months, it was really painful. Receiving the facial washing service from an automatic cleaning robot, Luran sighed at his short period of hard work. Every day, we go to the scrapyard to recycle a large amount of metal, which is then transported to the warehouse and re-crafted into the required alloy using the previously handcrafted metal structure. Afterwards, there were various hand rubs. Not only did they successfully create the tank, but they also transformed Luran's figure from ordinary to the perfect figure with 8-pack abs and a vest line. In the words of a certain director, this kind of body is even more beautiful than ancient Greek statues. Luran, dressed in clean clothes, sat in the specially designed game room in the warehouse, touching his chin and beginning to think about how to test the tank. If discovered by the military district, I'm afraid it's not meant to be classified as dangerous. Sigh, wait, why did I passively wait for them to discover? A 1000-watt headlight bulb lit up above Luran's head, and a good idea came along. I'll just take the initiative to let them know. By then, I won't just be a dangerous person, but I'll also be an abandoned civilian armed research and development genius. The military district will definitely invite me back to the military district as a treasure, and ask me to help them develop the latest weapons. If that's the case, I won't have to force myself to purchase metals and various materials anymore, just wait for the ready-made materials to be hand-rubbed. The more he thought about it, the more reliable Luran nodded and made a decision in his heart. He wants to sell M1A2 and SPV4 to the military district. Then, taking this opportunity to infiltrate the military region and become a moth, cough, and research and development talent. Luran is a person who takes action for whatever comes to mind. After making up your mind, directly find the external contact phone number of the Magic City military region online. Later, I directly dialed the phone, but for my own safety, Luran's phone IP address was completely fictional. This feature comes from a hacking system that Luran handcrafted 65 days ago. Hello, this is the Southern Military Region base. May I ask if you have anything to do? The phone was answered shortly after, and the operator asked in a very formulaic tone. Luran touched the PG version EXIA placed on the table with his fingers and said, "Hello, I would like to discuss an important matter with the military district. Can you help me convey it to your boss? May I ask what happened? You can inform me in advance and I will help you convey it." The other party's tone did not stir any waves due to Luran's words. "Well, I think you shouldn't know that things are better. It would be good for both of us. Can you just convey it to me?" Upon hearing the silence on the other end of the phone, Luran's tone changed from light to serious. "I'm not joking when I say these things. This matter is really serious." After waiting for a moment, Luran received a slightly agitated response from the operator. "I will convey your message, please wait for the call later." "Sure." Luran nodded and hung up the phone in his hand. After playing with the model in his hand for a while, Luran stood up and stretched lazily. "I feel like this credibility is a bit low, why not give them some excitement?" 5 minutes later, the warehouse gate rose with the sound of machinery. Buzz. Accompanied by a low engine sound, a tank with a black body and huge gun barrels drove out. "Yahoo!" Luran inside the driver's cabin shouted excitedly, and then drove his handmade M1A2 and SPV4 onto the suburban road. On the main road in the western suburbs of Modu, several supercars are driving at high speed. "Tuahai, your car isn't fast enough. How about it? Do you want to give it a spin?" Hoo, my Mercedes-Benz is already starving and thirsty." In the exclusive channel of the fleet, conversations among several wealthy second-generation members resounded. With the conversation between the few people, the engine of the sports car erupted with powerful power, supplying the vehicle with continuous acceleration. "Hey, you toy cars, quickly get out of my way and get out of the way." Suddenly, a strange voice from the wealthy second-generation came out of the fleet channel, which was actually a bit pleasant. Before the wealthy second-generation could react, they suddenly saw a huge vehicle turning around the corner ahead that shouldn't have appeared on the road. Sleeping slot. While the wealthy second-generation shouted for national essence, their right foot firmly pressed the brake, leaving several clear and visible tire marks on the road as the sports car slammed on the brakes. This kind of extreme damage to sports cars should have been cursed by several wealthy second-generation people. But at this moment, they had no intention of taking care of their sports cars, and they all stared ahead with wide eyes. Gazing at the steel creation that is enough to make every man's heart skip a beat, one of the wealthy second-generation sighed blankly. I'll be obedient. Is this going to reclaim Taizhou and complete the reunification of the motherland? In his hand, the phone was in recording mode and recording was being activated. Chapter 2. My tank was rear-ended. You are listening at novel.Feilu. Chapter 2. My tank was rear-ended. The special silicone is placed on the tank tracks, allowing the tank to travel without damaging the road surface and greatly improving its speed. The speed has reached 110 km per hour, which is currently unprecedented for tanks in the world. When a steel monster that is 10 meters long and 4 meters wide has such a speed, the visual impact it brings is quite strong. The wealthy second-generation parked in roadside sports cars even closed their eyes in fear when tanks passed by them. It wasn't until the tank disappeared behind them for a long time that they opened their eyes and got off the car to gaze from a distance. Can tanks run so fast? It feels much more exciting than a sports car. When I just turned the corner, did that tank drift a little bit? Can the top speed reach 115 km per hour while maintaining the safety limiter? Luran looked at the various data displayed on the electronic display in front of him. In the self-created system software, every data will be displayed, even the air pressure of the track will be displayed. Holding the driving stick, Luran hummed a tune in his mouth and stepped on the accelerator with his feet. The electronic system was constantly making various corrections to ensure a strong sense of stability inside the car. Chicken. You. Suddenly, a dynamic music sounded, which was exactly the ringtone of Luran's phone. Directly raise your hand and press the connect button on the front dashboard below, and a mobile phone number immediately appears on the screen in front of you. Luran glanced at an unfamiliar number. And the sorting is not the same as the normal phone number. Luran found that this number is somewhat similar to the previous military district phone. It seems that it should be a reply call from the military district. Switch the driving mode to automatic mode, then slide the screen and select to answer the call. Hello. Hello, I am the platoon leader of the communication department's first company at the Magic City branch of the Southern Military Region. I have received a report. May I ask what the so-called important thing is? As soon as the phone was connected, a deep and serious voice rang out from the other end. As an important presence in the military region, the Ministry of Communications belongs to the rank of regular division. The responsibilities include communication during peacetime and wartime, specifically responsible for listening, anti-listening, communication confidentiality, communication liaison, communication facility maintenance, communication equipment research and development, etc. The highest leader in the external communication department is the company commander. The operator reported Luran's situation to him as soon as possible, and the reason why the platoon leader called was because the operator found that Luran's phone IP address could not be traced at all. This situation made the platoon leader feel that there was something suspicious, so he took the initiative to contact Luran. That's right, it's me. Luran responded to the platoon leader's inquiry with a smile, ensuring that the phone was not being monitored. At the same time, he expressed his purpose. I recently developed and modified an M1A2, EP1-10 tank myself, and I want to sell it to your military district. What do you think? Of course, the price is still easy to negotiate. Let's stick to 1/3 of the market price, it's a super cost-effective business. M1A2. SEPV4 announced a cost of $44.43 million per vehicle. After finishing speaking, Luran found that the other party had not replied for a long time. Hello, are you still there? What? At this moment, the platoon leader on the other end of the phone was in a state of confusion, silently adjusting his mood and speaking seriously. This is the military district phone number, not a place for jokes. Although initially caught in a daze, the platoon leader who reacted did not believe what Luran said. M1A2, SEPV4. What is that thing? That is currently the strongest known land battle tank in the world, designed by the top professionals from Eagle Sauce. The most important thing is that even Eagle Sauce has not yet been crafted by them. Just because the cost is really too expensive. How could this kind of thing possibly appear in China? At this point, the platoon leader had already regarded Luran as a villain who lied and deceived the military district. Luran reluctantly scratched his cheek. So what, comrade company commander, I'm not joking. I'm already on my way to your military district now. Is it true? Why don't you come and take a look at the entrance of the military district later? Taking a different perspective, Luran also knew that this matter should sound quite absurd to the other party. But unfortunately, he is a cheat. So they desperately wanted the other party to come to the door and see it firsthand. After all, as long as their eyes saw the real thing, they had to believe that their words were true. However, the platoon leader completely believed what Luran said and warned with a serious tone. This is a warning. The military district's phone number is not meant to be a joke. Please do not continue to call, otherwise we will handle you in accordance with the law. What finally came to mind was that the platoon leader added a sentence before hanging up the phone. Don't think you've hidden your phone IP, our military headquarters won't be able to find you. Click. Looking at the dropped communication, Luran touched his nose. Oh my. Southern Military Region. After hanging up the phone, Captain Wang sat down with a dark face and picked up a teapot to take a sip of hot tea. Are people too idle now? All the pranks have been played on the head of the military region. It's too much. However, his ability to hide IPs is quite impressive. It seems that he has some hacking skills on him. But creating M1A2 and SEPV4, how could such a thing be possible? Even our flower growers don't have the ability to create it. Report suddenly, a soldier ran outside the door and interrupted Captain Wang's contemplation. Please come in. Watching the soldiers walking into the room to pay their respects, Captain Wang asked in confusion, what's going on? Captain, the regimental headquarters is holding an emergency meeting. Please go to the first conference room immediately. Okay. Upon hearing this, Captain Wang immediately stood up, picked up the notes and pens on the table, and walked towards the direction of the conference room. There are still 5 kilometers away from the destination, and the estimated arrival time is 10 minutes later. The autonomous tank slowly stopped in front of the red light, and Luran, who had already turned into a lying position in the driver's seat, sighed. I can only run to the entrance of the military district and let them see the existence of the tank with their own eyes. Speaking of which, will the soldiers? Luran, who had not finished speaking, suddenly heard a soft, clang sound. M1A2, SEPV4 has a huge body size and a specially designed metal shell structure, which is also extraordinary. The external sound is almost reduced to the extreme. Most external information needs to be obtained through the screen inside the tank. Sitting up, Luran looked at the results analyzed on the screen and furrowed his brow slightly, saying in disbelief. Did I get rear-ended? A fully armed tank, rear-ended. Luran, who was dumbfounded for a few seconds, gently slid the screen with his right hand. The screen changes directly from the condition in front of the car to the condition behind the car. Then, through the camera footage, Luran saw a white sports car from behind colliding with his car. The rear of the tank. Based on the car model, Luran speculates that this should be a Ferrari F8, which is expensive. Well, it's almost a fraction of the price of a land tank. The Ferrari F8 is worth $350,000, while the M1A2 and SEPV4 tanks cost $44.43 million. Chapter 3. The current success of popularizing traffic laws. You are listening at numb.Feilu. At this moment, a soprano inside the Ferrari car was screaming loudly. Ah ah. What should Miss Me do? We have a tail-end collision. What a rear-end collision. You're attacking a tank. You're killing yourself. Hiss. Inside the Ferrari car, both beautiful women with their own strengths were frightened and their faces turned pale. Especially the girl in the driver's seat had a pale face, her hands holding the steering wheel trembling incessantly, and her dazed gaze seemed to have not yet recovered from the previous fright. Honey, honey, what should we do? Reba, with a mixed-race beauty, quickly swayed in the passenger seat, dressed in a suit in Yang Mi's arms. We don't know how to attack with tanks, do we? If he attacks with one shot, we will definitely become ashes. The crazy shaking of Reba made Yang Mi's head dizzy, and she quickly grabbed the former's hand and shouted. Wait a moment. Hiss, my head hurts so much. Just now, Yang Mi's head hit the center console heavily due to the rear-end collision, and now it has turned red and is about to bulge. Today, due to the explosion of the TV series being filmed, Reba was excited to reward herself. She specially gave herself a Ferrari worth over 3 million yuan. Just received a new car, and the so-called bold driver, Reba couldn't help but want to give it a try. So she called Yang Mi, who was fishing in the company, to come out for a ride with her. By the way, she also wants to show her driving skills to the other party. As a result, I didn't expect my driving skills to be fully demonstrated yet, just because I was too surprised to see the tank and forgot to brake. I ended up rear colliding with the tank. What to do? What to do? We'll be arrested, right? The panicked Reba was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot, while Yang Mi covered the bulging lump on her forehead and tried to find a solution. Honey, why don't we run? Suddenly, Reba looked at Yang Mi absent-mindedly and said. And she also did the same with both hands, pressing the reverse button and pressing the accelerator pedal with her right foot, trying to escape. However, Ferrari didn't give her any face and didn't even start. It's over, we're done. Reba was completely numb, and her first rear-end collision in life turned out to be a tank. At this moment, she felt that her life had become bleak. I'm afraid my career as an artist is coming to an end. The pressure in her heart forced Reba's eyes to contain tears, and when she blinked, tears were about to fall. This reaction made Yang Mi on the side also quite anxious. Just as the two of them were looking at each other in despair, the car windows had already been knocked. Ah! Reba, like two frightened little rabbits, turned her head and nervously looked out the window. Through the anti-peeping glass of the car, the two saw a tall and handsome boy frowning and tapping on the car window. Reba saw through the boy's tightly furrowed brow that his mood seemed somewhat unattractive. I should apologize to him now. Reba immediately wanted to lower the car window. But Yang Mi, the co-pilot, reacted faster and took the lead by holding on to Reba's hand, saying. Wait, Reba. What's wrong? Reba looked at Yang Mi with a bewildered expression, very puzzled as to what the other person was calling her. It seems that his attire is not from the military. And Yang Mi frowned slightly as she looked at Luran outside the window. Reba cried and said. Honey, I'm ready to go to jail now. You need to help me take care of my parents in the future. Shut up. Yang Mi took out 2 pairs of sunglasses and a mask from her bag. Bring it on, hide your identity first, and then see if you can turn it around. Ah. Miss, are you struggling to the brink of death? I'm trying to save you. Ah. Outside the car, Luran looked at the unresponsive vehicle after knocking on the window. It's done, isn't there anything wrong with the unlucky guy in the car? Turning his head, he looked at the front of Ferrari, which had become dilapidated due to the impact, as well as the rear of the tank, which had been scratched off by Ferrari's paint. Luran exclaimed in his heart that something was wrong and frantically knocked on the car window. And the inside of the car also matched the confession with Reba and Yangmi, adjusting the sunglasses and mask on the face to ensure they are not exposed. Reba lowered the car window, deliberately lowering her voice, but still asked with a cry. "May I ask if there is anything I can do?" "What?" Upon hearing these words, Luran's brow furrowed even more, and Yangmi covered her face in despair. "What I said to her. This girl didn't even remember a word. What's going on? You overtook me, okay? How did you do it on such a big road?" Luran pointed to the empty road around him and said. "You're going to hit my butt because you can solve something with just one direction." Reba, who was already pretending to be calm, heard Luran's questioning. She suddenly became even more panicked. If it weren't for a mask blocking her, her crazy trembling lips would have betrayed her now. Yangmi in the co-pilot's seat knew that the girl must be very nervous now as she watched Reba constantly wriggling in the driver's seat. So he took up the topic, and of course, Yangmi deliberately suppressed his voice without revealing his original voice. "Sorry, it was all our mistake." As she spoke, Yangmi untied the safety and took her out of the car. The two white long legs under the shorts reflected white light in the sunlight. "My evaluation is not as good as the leg-pulling filter of TikTok short video." Luran glanced and then refocused his gaze on Yangmi's face wearing a mask. "Sorry, I'm really sorry. My friend just got his driver's license and he's not very proficient in driving yet. This is my full responsibility." Yangmi chose to take the initiative first, and said under Luran's surprised gaze. "Okay, let's take a look at the damage to your car. We will compensate for it." Luran looked at the opponent's pitiful Ferrari and his own tank with a little paint off. The degree of damage between the two has reached a point where one cannot bear to look directly at them. Luran originally thought that the other party was going to claim compensation on his own, but he didn't expect that the other party would actually have to compensate him. The look at Yangmi and Reba was full of surprise. Is this sunglasses and mask woman serious? Has the popularization of traffic laws been so successful now? At this moment, Reba stood silently behind Yangmi, looking at her beloved car with heartache in her eyes. It just turned out like this on the first day. Although her tone was filled with grievances, Reba also knew that this was her main responsibility. Just for now, it's more important to compensate the other car owner. Reba, who thought of it so much, cheered and cheered behind Yangmi. "Come on, Miss Honey, we'll leave the negotiation to you." Yangmi, who was apologizing to Luran, had a dark expression on her face. "Do you think it's okay?" Faced with Yangmi's hopeful tone, Luran scratched the back of his head and said. Actually I don't have any objections, it's mainly you." "Okay, please wait for us, we will contact the insurance company to handle it now." After slightly bowing down and apologizing to Luran again, Yangmi turned to look at Reba and said. "Let's call the insurance company to resolve this issue." Faced with such a situation, they are professional. They should be professional, right? Yangmi glanced at the tank and her affirmative tone suddenly weakened. "Okay," Reba nodded pitifully, walked to the roadside, took out her phone, and began calling the insurance company. Yangmi followed anxiously, while Luran behind her looked at the backs of the two women and inexplicably felt a bit familiar. "It seems like I've seen them somewhere before." However, due to the mask and sunglasses, Luran did not recognize the two women. After waiting for a few seconds to connect, Hot Palmer pondered how to speak to the insurance company later. After all, the insurance was purchased in the morning, and the car crashed in the afternoon. She is worried that the insurance company will accuse her of cheating, but in reality, things often end up like this. As a first-line female celebrity, Reba's number is also considered a senior customer in the insurance company. The person responsible for connecting the Reba phone is not an ordinary employee, but a customer manager from the insurance department. "Hello, Miss Doraba. May I help you? Listening to the polite and gentle questioning voice of the account manager, Reba's originally nervous mood also relaxed a lot. Under Yang Mi's encouraging gaze, Reba blushed and spoke up. Hello. Actually, my car just ended up in a rear-end collision. Could you please come over here? After hearing Reba's words, the customer manager raised his eyebrows in surprise and quickly clicked on the computer with his fingers. Looking at the insurance that Reba had just entered the house this morning, the account manager asked with a slight twitch at the corner of his mouth. Okay, I understand. By the way, what car did you rear-end with? Reba blinked her eyes and turned her head to look at the steel giant behind her, saying, if nothing unexpected happens, it should be a tank. Chapter 4. Which insurance company is so grand, even tanks? You are listening at novel.Feilu. Chapter 4. Which insurance company is so grand that tanks are insured? Tank. The insurance company manager paused for a moment, pondering for a moment, and a popular online car model came to mind. Are you talking about Tank 300? Or Tank 500, one of the limited edition versions of these two series? Exclusive edition. After hearing the account manager's words, Reba turned her head and glanced at the appearance of M1A2A and SEPV4. The futuristic technology that far exceeded that of a normal tank made Reba reply with a bewildered expression and timidity. I don't know if it's a limited edition, it looks really impressive anyway. It looks very impressive. Is it a modified version? The account manager touched his chin and thought, and finally said to Reba. How about you turn on the hands-free and I'll ask the car owner about it. Oh. Reba honestly turned on the hands-free and trembled as she held up her phone in front of Luran. Luran looked at it in confusion and then heard the customer manager's business coming out of his phone. Excuse me, is your car Tank 300? Tank 300. That SUV. How could this woman make the insurance company misunderstand like this? Luran glanced at Reba wearing sunglasses and a mask, sighed, and said. No, it's just a tank. Ah. Upon hearing the confused voice of the customer manager, Reba anxiously patted her feet as if wanting to say something. Luran noticed that Reba seemed to be a bit anxious, and after thinking for a moment, she leaned in front of her phone and spoke. The full name is M1A2, SEPV4. Reba nodded and whispered in a low voice. So it's called this name. I remember, I won't bump into it next time I meet. The account manager scratched his head, he really didn't have any impression. Is it a new model of tank? Exclusive edition. Similar to Tank 300 Cyberpunk. The customer manager, who was thinking so, searched on the computer. I want to see if I can find this car model. Thanks to the insurance company's ultra-fast network, soon the message of M1A2 SEPV4 appeared on the screen. M1A2 SEPV4, the strongest tank currently developed by Eagle Sauce Institute, with an estimated cost of $44.43 million, has not been successfully built due to financial reasons. Looking at the appearance of the metal monster in the picture, the account manager frowned. What kind of thing? What I searched for was clearly a car, how did a tank come out? Is it a new model that has not yet been released for testing? The account manager did not even think of the existence of the rear end of the Jeep towards the tank. In his inherent impression, he believed that this car should be a new model that has not yet been released. After all, the tank of Eagle Sauce has not been built, how could it be rear-ended on the road of the flower grower? The account manager who thought of this replied calmly. Sir, I don't have any relevant information about the model you mentioned. Is it the limited edition or new model of Tank 300? It's not Tank 300, it's M1A2 SEPV4. It's tank. Reba, who remembered the name of the tank, repeated it seriously this time. The customer manager across from him shook his head helplessly and said in a tone of helplessness. I know it's a tank. I think the tanks you two are talking about should be two different things. Luran silently plunged into the topic on the side. Two things. The customer manager was momentarily stunned and carefully savored Luran's words. What does that mean? How could it still be called a real tank? But this idea was suppressed in the heart of the account manager just a second after it appeared. Are you joking? Please, M1A2 accept for marine tank. After a brief online search, the account manager has not yet figured out how amazing this thing is. But he understood one thing, which is that the probability of encountering this car on the road is lower than encountering ghosts in broad daylight. After all, the Eagle sauce they belong to has not yet started construction. As a result, Reba not only encountered it, but also ended up colliding with it. The account manager wouldn't dare to dream that such a thing would happen. But facing the current attitude of Luran and Reba, the account manager was also very helpless, so he had to propose to speak. It seems that we are unable to reach a consensus at the moment, and it is not convenient to talk over the phone. Please provide us with your current address, and we will go to the scene to inspect and compensate. Upon hearing this, Reba first glanced at Luran and, with a gentle reminder from Yangmi, quickly informed the account manager of the address. The customer manager who received the address nodded and said, "Okay, we will be on site soon. Please wait for us." Aha. Reba nodded, put her phone back in her ear, and carefully glanced at the tank in the distance. Cover the bottom of the phone with your hand and whisper softly. Can you hurry up? The current atmosphere is making me very nervous. After hearing this, the account manager thought to herself that the female celebrity is also a girl, and it is normal for her to feel nervous when encountering such a situation. Don't worry, you are the highest level insurance claim provider in our company. However, in any situation, we will help you fully compensate. The account manager lifted his chin and spoke with a somewhat haughty tone. A tank is just 300 yuan, even if it's a new or limited edition, it's only worth a few 100,000 yuan. The account manager really didn't take this money seriously. It's worth using this small amount of money to maintain the employment relationship with Reba. After turning off the phone, Reba turned her head to look at Luran and said, "The insurance company said they will come over soon and let us wait for them here." "Don't worry, the insurance company said they will handle all the claims." "All? Which insurance company are you using?" Luran did not follow Reba's topic and instead raised his own question. However, this question puzzled Reba a bit, but she still answered honestly. "Rabbit Life Insurance, what's wrong?" "It's okay." Luran shook his head and said, "I just want to see which insurance company is so grand, so I can invest in their insurance in the future." Reba, Yangmi. On the other hand, the insurance company. M1A2, SEPV4 tanks, it's really a pipe dream. After the customer manager hung up the phone, he couldn't help roast. It's highly likely to be a new product of the Tank 300 or 500 series. The customer manager's roast was heard by the staff not far away, but because it was not very clear, it was just a general hearing. After seeing the manager hang up the phone, everyone rushed over and said, "Manager, what happened?" "Reba's car rear-ended." Let me go. "But I just heard something about a tank." "Tank, has our company cooperated with the military district now? Even the tank is protected, isn't it?" Bull. The manager frowned as he listened to the discussion of his subordinates one by one, and waved his hand in displeasure. Go, do your own work. What kind of tank? It should be just a tank of 300, but it's not just a broken car worth less than 500,000 yuan. After speaking, the account manager took a few of his subordinates and walked arrogantly to the location where Reba was located. Half an hour later, after several members of the insurance company arrived at the location mentioned by Reba, the road leading to the destination was found to be blocked by several supercars, with several young people dressed in wealthy attire constantly exchanging ideas. I'll go, I didn't expect to see the real thing one day. Can't you find out what model it is? No way, it's impossible to record at all. What about taking photos? Is it okay to take photos? The manager ignored the discussions of the wealthy second generation, and by now his gaze was completely drawn to M1A2 and SEPV4 10 meters ahead. The rugged appearance, sturdy barrel, matte black spray paint. Everything looks very similar to the photos online, but the actual object looks even more terrifying. The manager's rationality told him that without a doubt, this is a tank. Clack. The briefcase in hand fell to the ground, and the manager's mouth grew to the point of almost dislocating. How could this be possible? Surprisingly, it's really a tank. I must be dreaming. New books for collection. Begging for flowers. You are listening at numb.Feilu. New books for collection. Begging for flowers. I hope readers who enjoy reading this book can provide great support. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Also, this book guarantees a minimum of 4 updates every day. 1,000 flowers and 1 more change. 500 review votes plus 1 update. 10 people reward and 1 watch. 50 comments plus 1 update. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. 10,000. No, I want 1 million. You are listening at numb.Feilu. Excuse me, excuse me. While the insurance manager was still in a daze, Reba walked out with Lu Yu from the wealthy second generation group watching tanks. Go straight to the insurance manager. Manager Wang, Manager Wang. The insurance manager blinked and looked at Lu Yu and Reba standing in front of him. It's really me, Wang Sheng. Hello, Mississippi. When he was about to call out Reba's name, his profession as a professional insurance professional made him change his mind halfway. And Lu Yu furrowed his brow in confusion, thinking to himself why this cargo seemed a bit abnormal. Glancing at Reba's erect thumb, Wang Sheng covered his slightly painful heart and asked. May I ask which vehicle you were rear-ended with? In my heart, I am crazily shouting. Don't be this tank. Don't be this tank. That one. Looking in the direction pointed by Reba, the M1A2 SPV4 reflected in Wang Sheng's eyes was so dazzling. For a moment, Wang Sheng even felt his heart stopping. After a few seconds, the despair was so extreme that Wang Sheng came back to his senses. A smirk appeared on his face as he looked at Lu Yu and asked. Are you the owner of this tank? That's right. Lu Yu nodded and looked down at the time on his watch. After discovering that more than half an hour had passed, there was a faint sense of dissatisfaction in my heart. If there had been no such accident, I should have opened fire recklessly in the military district now, right? I don't know how long it will take to solve it now. Thinking of this, Lu Yu cast a displeased glance at Reba beside him. This made the latter blink their beautiful eyes, but unfortunately, they were completely blocked by sunglasses and Lu Yu couldn't see them. Wang Sheng's right hand, which was placed in his heart, unknowingly wrinkled his neatly ironed suit, and his eyes stared fixedly at Lu Yu. Damn it, what should my next line be? I can't believe it at all. Noticing Wang Sheng's fiery gaze, Lu Yu's hair stood up on his back and he couldn't help but take a step back and say. What do you want? Wang Sheng also noticed that his gaze was a bit impolite, and immediately bent down with apologies to ask Lu Yu. May I ask if your tank has insurance? Will the military district be responsible? If so, you can contact them and we will handle this matter together. How could that thing be there? Would a normal person insure a tank? When Lu Yu heard Wang Sheng's words, he couldn't help roast. Do you think I was hung by an old birthday star? living to the point of impatience. But on the surface, he said calmly. Sorry, my tank doesn't have insurance. Lu Yu imagined for a moment the scene of insuring his tank. Driving a tank to the insurance company, he was misunderstood and the insurance company called the police. The police arrived and were frightened by the tank. They called for help from the military district, who came to take action against him. He died in the overwhelming firepower. Lu Yu felt terrifying just thinking about it. There is no insurance, and when Wang Sheng heard Lu Yu's words, he immediately felt a bit embarrassed. But as long as he thinks carefully, he completely knows how outrageous what he is saying now, wanting to demand insurance for a tank. Taking advantage of Lu Yu's lack of attention, Wang Sheng whispered in Reba's ear. Since the other party does not have insurance, according to the traffic law, we can only pay for compensation. Well, that's all we have to do. Reba also knew that the responsibility for this matter lay with herself, and Yang Mi beside her patted her shoulder and said. Spend money to solve the disaster, fortunately it can still be solved with money. That's right. Reba nodded, as she was not short of money. The income of frontline artists can be said to have crushed 90% of their jobs. Just confirm it. After obtaining the consent of Reba, Wang Sheng turned his head and said to Lu Yu. Sir, since you don't have insurance, we can compensate you directly for the repair fee. Subsequently, he took the photos of the rear end scene that his subordinates had just taken and glanced at them twice. Each photo showed Ferrari's tragic appearance, without any mention of tanks. This situation made Wang Sheng feel a bit strange and turned his head to ask his subordinates. How is the tank's wear and tear situation? It seems like only a little paint has fallen off. Upon hearing his subordinate's answer, Wang nodded. I mistook the absence of tanks in the photo for my subordinates and made a work mistake by being too concerned about the condition of Ferrari. So, he didn't pay any attention and directly told Lu Yu. Well, according to the photos, on the contrary, the vehicles on our side are more severely damaged, and your tank is almost completely undamaged. In that case, can we compensate you 10,000 yuan on our end? Wang Sheng felt that he was definitely very generous with this wave. After all, the tail of the opponent's tank was deformed, and it seemed like there were only a few scratches. Compensating 10,000 yuan for repainting is completely extravagant. But Wang Sheng chose to handle it this way not for someone like Lu Yu who can drive tanks, but for big clients like Reba. As long as the latter is satisfied, the 10,000 yuan lost in the subsequent insurance will be easily recovered. 10,000. Upon hearing this, Lu Yu, who was holding his chest in both hands, frowned tightly and spoke in a very dissatisfied tone. Are you joking with me, what? Wang Sheng blinked in confusion, not quite understanding what Lu Yu was saying. Even Yang Mi and Reba on the side looked at Lu Yu with confusion. Lu Yu explained. The surface of my tank is not a regular paint surface, but a signal shielding material made of special materials. This material can make tanks completely invisible in electronic signals, radar, cameras, and cameras. At this point, if you scrape off a piece of the surface, the compensation will be at least 1 million yuan. Lu Yu is not joking, although these materials were all hand-crafted by him through the design drawings provided by the system. But the raw materials contained in it were made with the effort of Lu Yu's big nose. If you want to purchase these raw materials in the market, it will cost at least tens of thousands of yuan. Plus the labor cost of land travel, 1 million. Lu Yu doesn't think there's much. What? 1 million. Wang Sheng screamed loudly, causing the wealthy second-generation onlookers in the distance to perk up their ears. And Wang Sheng approached Lu Yu and said in a slightly trembling tone. This handsome guy, please don't make such a joke. Am I joking? Isn't this kind of thing easy to distinguish? Lu Yu took out his phone from his pocket, opened the camera and directly aimed at the tank behind him. After taking a photo, he handed the phone to Wang Sheng. Taking a closer look, Wang Sheng found that besides the tank, everyone else and the scenery were all in the photo. If you still don't believe it, you can try using your own phone. Listening to Lu Yu's calm tone, Wang Xing's lips and limbs trembled violently. He suddenly realized that things seemed to be out of his control. Chapter 6. I, Luran, love to be self-righteous the most. You are listening at numb.Feilu. No matter what, it's still too outrageous. Wang Xing shook his head frantically, but his right hand signaled from behind, asking his subordinates to take photos and try. He doesn't believe what Luran said. 1 million is really outrageous. Quickly, each of the employees returned with their phones in hand. Wang Xing flipped through the photos on everyone's phones. Without exception, everyone's mobile phones were unable to capture the presence of that tank, even though the eyes could clearly see it. However, Wang Xing noticed several close-up photos of the rear of the tank, showing a metal strangely floating in mid-air. What is this? Wang asked the employee, who glanced back and replied. This is the paint surface that Ferrari rubbed off, as long as this area can be captured by the phone. After listening, Wang Xing blinked his dull eyes. This is too absurd. Will this material appear in reality? Wang Xing suddenly felt that his understanding of the world seemed too little. Has military technology actually developed to this extent? So, are you sure about it? Luran, who had not spoken yet, asked. Wang Xing's eyes narrowed when he heard Luran's voice, and he began to think about how he should talk nonsense. No, just argue. Although Wang Xing's attitude was arrogant when he first left the company, believing that compensation was simple. After all, the original preparation was only to compensate a car worth over 300,000 yuan. The maximum compensation for a rear-end collision is tens of thousands of yuan. But now it has suddenly become a tank worth tens of millions of dollars. The compensation has directly increased from tens of thousands of yuan to millions. The huge changes in between are really difficult for ordinary people to simply accept. Adding their insurance company employees, it is a professional instinct to strive to reduce compensation in such places. While Wang Xing was frantically pondering how to fool Luran, the employee behind him suddenly spoke up. Mr. Lu, your compensation is still too high. Can you lower it a bit? Wang Xing turned his head to look, his heart filled with doubts. Young man, what do you mean? No, the manager is still here. What are you trying to say? Oh. So what do you mean? Lu Yu looked at the insurance officer who spoke with great interest, wanting to see what the other person was trying to say. Under Wang Xing's increasingly dangerous gaze, the insurer walked forward with a confident smile on his face. We don't even want to see the rear of the tank being scratched, but since it happened, we need to find a way to solve it. Luran. Speak in human language, keep it simple. The insurer lowered his voice and said. You also serve the military district, right? After receiving a compensation of 1 million yuan, it should probably have been taken away by the military district. It's better to find a different way. We will compensate you 100,000 yuan, and all of this money will belong to you. As for the military region, it is inevitable for tanks to be scratched while driving, right? Luran carefully savored these two sentences. The conclusion is that you want to bribe me and then let me take 100,000 yuan without pursuing you. This doesn't comply with the rules. As a customer manager, Wang Xing quickly shook his head and thought to himself, how could insurance business be done like this? You can negotiate, but you can't do this. However, Wang Xing's words were not taken seriously by the insurer. He believes that if the news of saving 900,000 yuan for the company reaches the ears of the boss, he will definitely be satisfied with the appreciation and salary increase for himself. As for Wang Xing, it's not certain who will be the leader then. Under the enthusiastic gaze of the insurer, the corner of Luran's mouth curled up. Although your suggestion is very good. Upon hearing this sentence, the insurer's eyes lit up with excitement. And Wang Xing sighed in his heart. There will definitely be 2 words after that. Luran did not disappoint Wang Xing either. He raised his head slightly with both hands in his pockets and said under the bewildered gaze of the insurance officer. Dama, I refuse. Jojo, my favorite thing to do in my life is to say no to someone who thinks they are righteous. So I reject your proposal and quickly take out 1 million. The insurance officer looked at Luran, who looked as if he didn't get any oil or salt, and spread out his hands, wanting to say something more. However, Luran, who noticed that time had been delayed for a long time, had no patience to listen to these people forcing him to rely on him. Click on your phone, find an app, and start operating it. Then, under the gaze of a crowd of onlookers, including the wealthy second generation and insurance officers, the originally quiet tank's lights suddenly lit up, and the gun turret turned 180 degrees in an instant. The pitch-black muzzle immediately aimed at the insurance officers. Meanwhile, after Wang Xing began negotiating with Luran, Reba and Yang Mi moved away and found a place to whisper to each other in a low voice. Miss, do you think what he said is true? The function of preventing mobile phones from taking photos is real. Yang Mi shook her phone in her hand. Just as she was speaking to Luran, she curiously tried it. I found that the black tank really couldn't appear in the camera. If it weren't for being visible to the naked eye, Yang Mi would have thought she was going to see a ghost. Then let's compensate. Reba timidly leaned over Yang Mi's ear and said. What if this guy gets angry and uses tanks to bombard us? No matter what, it's impossible for such an outrageous thing to happen. Sleeping trough. After Yang Mi finished speaking, she heard screams of terror coming from afar. Look along the sound and location. It was discovered that Wang Xing was screaming, holding his chest in both hands and trembling all over, with a look of considerable fear. What's wrong with him? Yang Mi tilted her head in confusion, and the next second, she felt a tug on her sleeve. Honey, look. Look in the direction indicated by Reba's trembling fingers. Yang Mi's eyes widened under her sunglasses. How dare he? Looking at the gun barrel that was turning towards Wang Xing at an unknown time, Yang Mi was dumbfounded. There should be no one in the field who can mobilize this tank, except for the handsome and well-built guy. At this moment, he remotely controlled and aimed the gun barrel at Luran, Wang Xing, with a faint smile on his face. Alright, forget about the ink stains, my patience is limited. If you accidentally press any button, it won't be good for the armor-piercing bullet to be launched. Looking at Luran with a kind smile on his face, Wang Xing almost knelt down and supported his weak knees with both hands, saying, Mr. Lu, please calm down a bit. Don't come over. Wang swallowed a mouthful of saliva and moved quietly, wanting to deviate slightly from the muzzle. But soon he noticed that the distant muzzle seemed to be moving along with his movements. Wang, who had noticed this, was all dumbfounded and exclaimed in a moment of mental breakdown. Mr. Lu, why was the gun aimed at me when someone else offended you? Luran tilted his head and said, Aren't you their leader? Don't you know if you want to capture the king first? Wang Xing. Suddenly, I don't want to be a manager anymore. Chapter 7. I said I didn't encounter it, do you believe it? You are listening at novel.Feilu. Wait. Just as Luran was about to ask Wang Xing to leave the ink stains behind, Reba rushed over at an extremely fast speed, while still shouting loudly. Leave people under the cannon. Rapidly running, Reba didn't notice a stone under her feet. The moment she stepped on her right foot, the sliding stone took away her already limited sense of balance. The whole person suddenly fell towards the ground. Looking at the ground getting closer and closer, Reba only had one thought in her mind at this moment. I won't lose face because of this, will I? Is my career as an artist coming to an end? I don't think about plastic surgery. Well, an idea about appearance. With a desperate expression on her face, Reba closed her eyes and was prepared for the pain to spread in her heart. That's strange. Ah ah ah. Pop. The sunglasses fell to the ground and made a crisp sound. Oh, it doesn't hurt. I didn't fall. Rapa, who was screaming, suddenly felt a thick pillar touching her chest and her face touching it the next moment, causing her entire body to stagnate in the air. Failed to create a scene of intimate contact with the ground. Falling on the ground or something. This is reality. Luran, who reached out his right leg to catch Reba's body, raised his eyebrows and suddenly felt a soft touch coming from the back of his foot. It's quite light. And quite substantial. My right foot, which has been in one position all along, feels a bit sore and I can't help but lift my toe slightly. Ah 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 ah. The next second, Reba, who had not yet realized what was going on, suddenly felt her chest. She immediately started screaming. The whole person jumped up directly from the spot, holding onto the upper body with both hands, while their long legs quickly swung backwards and retreated. She showed her beautiful eyes with tears as her sunglasses fell off, staring at Luran with shame and anger. You. Luran, who was still holding his right foot up, blinked. My gaze was first fixed on Reba's shy and angry gaze, and after a moment of hesitation, I slowly looked down along Reba's pristine swan neck. Until I saw Reba tightly embracing her upper arms. Luran suddenly realized something, licking his slightly dry lips with his tongue and scratching the insole with his right foot inside his shoe. Under the shy, angry, and murderous gaze of Reba, Luran scratched his own head and said with an uncertain gaze. Cough, actually my shoe upper is very thick. I said I didn't touch anything. Do you believe me? As soon as these words were spoken, the surroundings immediately fell silent. Wang Sheng, Yang Mi and others, who had been quietly eating melons, looked at Luran's guilty expression at this time, and all of them rose in their hearts. Aren't you here without 300 taels of silver? You definitely hit something wrong just now. XN Reba. Isn't this person fully explained? Hot Ba, who clenched her fists tightly, kept comforting herself in her heart. The other party has cannons now, the other party has cannons now. Heroes don't suffer immediate losses, and it's not too late for a gentleman to seek revenge for 10 years. Still so angry. He just recalling the feeling just now, Reba felt her face scorching hot, and she hugged her arms with even more force. It's bad, the atmosphere has reached this point. It seems that the topic of compensation is not very good now. Luran stood awkwardly in place, unsure of what to do. Looking at the upper half of Reba's face that was not covered by a mask, Luran felt even more familiar. At this moment, Wang Xing finally reacted to Yang Mi's poke. Take the initiative to speak to Luran. Cough, Mr. Lu, regarding the compensation issue, I think we still need to talk about it. At the first moment of hearing Wang Xing's speech, Luran breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, and finally someone stepped forward to break the deadlock. The look in Wang Xing's eyes as he turned his head was full of gratitude. And Wang Xing also understood Luran's gaze and nodded with a smile. Mr. Lu, I have helped you out of this wave. Should we pay compensation in this regard? Well done. Luran and Wang Xing exchanged a glance. Then Luran shook his phone and said, Hurry up and lose money. Otherwise, I'll fire a gun. Wang Xing immediately looked at Luran with a sorrowful gaze. Sleeping trough, merciless. Didn't you thank me just now? Luran raised his eyebrows and said, Although I am a bit grateful, the money cannot be reduced. Seeing the stalemate return once again, Wang Xing sighed and said, Since our two sides are currently deadlocked, why not report to the police directly and have the traffic police handle it? Alarm. Handling. Luran's eyebrows furrowed slightly. Who will be dealt with? It's not about dealing with who, it's about dealing with this matter. Is the traffic police different from your system? Wang Xing didn't understand the meaning behind Lu Ran's words. He still believes that Lu Ran is from the military region. In the understanding of a normal person, the only place a flower grower can have a tank is in the military district. So who else can drive a tank on the road besides people from the military district? After all, no one could have imagined that Lu Ran was an open-minded person who could create a tank by hand from discarded metal and various materials. Taking a glance at the pitch-black muzzle, Wang Xing tentatively asked Lu Yu again. What do you think? Lu Ran fell silent and began to contemplate Wang Xing's proposal. It feels a bit troublesome. I haven't been in contact with the military district yet. If the police find out. Sigh, it seems like this is a good solution. Lu Ran nodded and said, thinking of something in his heart. Sure. Okay. Wang Xing nodded happily with the agreement of Lu Ran, and then looked at Reba, who was seeking comfort from Yang Mi. What about you two? We also agree. Yang Mi, who seemed to be comforting with Reba but was actually being eaten tofu, nodded. Wang Xing, who obtained the consent of both parties, immediately called the police. The pressure in his heart from being pointed at by the pitch-black gun is really too great. He urgently needs the police uncle to give him some sense of security now. P.S. The new book set sail, humble author seeks some data here. Free flowers and review tickets, thank you all. Can you first let go of my hand in chapter 8? You are listening at novel.Feilu. During the time when Lu Ran and others were waiting for the traffic police, the wealthy second generation who had been eating melons nearby gathered together to communicate. Brothers, there seems to be a dispute over compensation over there. I knew you just ran over and eavesdropped. Hurry up, it's my first time encountering a tank being rear-ended. I must understand the whole process. Not to mention the tank rear-end collision, it's still my first time seeing a tank, okay. Sigh, forget about the ink stains and quickly say what you heard. Under the urging of numerous wealthy second-generation individuals, the person who eavesdropped on their conversation with Lu Ran revealed all the content. In a moment, the wealthy second-generation became excited. The compensation is 1 million yuan, just because it scratched a little paint. It's really his mother ridiculous. Wow, this thing is much more valuable than sports cars. Is this guy intentionally deceiving the insurance company? Even if this new material is rare, it shouldn't be priced at 1 million yuan just a little bit, right? No wonder my phone can't capture this tank. It turns out this coating is so amazing. Good guy. Is this the true technology of our flower growers? Strong. You say, if I give him 1 million, can he let me drive around inside the tank? These wealthy second-generation people are excitedly discussing the issue of tank compensation. But the focus is not on the compensation of 1 million yuan, after all, these wealthy second-generation people have seen the world before. Many supercars, due to their rare colors, require repainting of the entire body after the original paint has peeled off, which can cost hundreds of thousands of yuan per set. Even the wealthy second-generation think that with such a handsome tank, compensation of only 1 million is already a very cost-effective thing. If possible, these guys are willing to pay 1 million in exchange for the opportunity to enter the tank. But no one dared to mention this matter to Lu Ran. In their eyes, Lu Ran is a ruthless person who dares to block people with the muzzle. They don't want to experience the feeling of being targeted by the tank's muzzle. What are those guys doing around my tank? When Lu Ran turned his head and looked at the wealthy second-generation gathered together, he was considering whether to drive them away. The familiar siren sound diverted his attention away. Yang Mi, Reba, and others also looked towards the place where the police siren came from. Among them, Wang Xing seemed to see his family, with tears in his eyes. The pressure that has been constantly being pointed at by the gun is a bit too much stimulation for an insurance company manager. Quickly, a police car stopped in front of everyone. Dear family. You have finally arrived. The traffic police captain had just gotten off the car when he was grabbed by Wang Sheng and his hands kept shaking. This situation made the traffic police a bit confused, even forgetting the lines they should have said. His reaction is really exaggerated. Is it a skill trained by the insurance company? Luran said beside Reba. Stay away from me, stinky thug. Be careful, I'll let the traffic police catch you. When Reba saw Luran, it was like seeing a fox's little rabbit, almost exploding its fur. The whole person huddled behind Yangmi, trying to threaten Luran with the traffic police. Then I saw Luran pointing to the tank behind me, and Hot Barton fell silent. It seems that the traffic police are not a match for tanks, damn it. Stinky thug. At this moment, Wang Xing tightly held the hand of the traffic police captain and explained the whole story. That's what happened, comrade traffic police. He asked us to compensate 1 million for the minor scratches. Tank rear-ended. 1 million. After listening, the traffic police captain was completely dumbfounded. He has been working as a traffic police officer for so many years and has never heard of such an outrageous thing. But looking at the giant black tank in the distance, the traffic police captain fell silent. A few seconds later, the traffic police captain who finally forced himself to accept sighed. This is just ridiculous. I need to inquire with the higher-ups about this kind of thing, and then talk to the military district. The shocked traffic police wanted to pull their hands out of Wang Xing's arms first. As a result, with a forceful pull, he didn't move, but instead made Wang Xing grip even tighter. Traffic police captain. Can you let go of my hand? Wang shook his head, this is the source of his sense of security. So, the traffic police were forced to ask their subordinates to hold up the phone and contact the bureau. By the way, Zhang Xiao, I remember your uncle was the company commander of the military region. Can you ask him about this tank? Suddenly, a wealthy second generation looked at a young man standing in front of the tank and said. And as soon as he spoke, others around him also spoke in response. Yeah. There are people from the military district in Zhang's family, and they will definitely know about this tank. Mr. Zhang, why don't you contact your relatives and ask about the situation with this tank? It's best to ask if we can enter the tank and experience it. Zhang Jiahe listened to his friend's demands, and although he had the heart to agree, he immediately shook his head and said, recalling his uncle's stern face. Isn't that a bit bad? If my uncle gets involved in our racing today. Zhang Xiao, are you afraid now? Yeah, are you a child who is afraid of parents? No, no. The skeptical tone of the people around him made Zhang Jiahe, who had the best face, blush and instinctively denied it. How could it be? You guys wait. I'll call my uncle right now. While speaking, Zhang Jiahe took out his own phone. In front of everyone, search for the company commander's uncle from the contacts and show them around first. Do you see it? Make a video call directly. This move made the wealthy second generation on the side raise their thumbs up. Zhang Jiahe's face couldn't show such an expression, but his heart was praying. Don't answer, don't answer, don't answer. However, reality is so cruel, the less you want something to happen, the more often it actually happens. During Zhang Jiahe's prayer, his uncle answered the video call. In the video, a middle-aged man wearing military uniform with a Chinese face appears, who is the same company commander who previously spoke to Luran. Captain Wang looked at Zhang Jiahe with a puzzled expression of despair and asked. Why did you suddenly make a video call to me, kid? Is something wrong? Encouraged by the eyes of his friends around him, Zhang Jiahe took a few deep breaths and said. Didn't I encounter something related to the military district? That's why I wanted to ask you. What's going on in the video? Captain Wang picked up a teacup and blew, slowly taking a sip of hot tea. I saw a tank being rear-ended in the suburbs. Puff. Chapter 9. Unable to shoot. Invisible fighter jets can't even do it. You are listening at numb.Feilu. Captain Wang, due to excessive excitement, sprayed tea while his right hand did not hold the cup firmly in his hand. Fortunately, the tea in the cup is no longer hot, otherwise. Fortunately, it can still be used. Captain Wang wiped the tea on the crotch of his pants and confirmed that a certain position was still functional. I just looked up at Zhang Jiahe on the phone screen and said. Cough cough. Are you intentionally joking with me, kid? No, uncle, what I said is true. Zhang Jiahe quickly began to recount what he had seen and heard today. So. At the same time, the traffic police captain connected his own director's phone number. The first step is to speak simply and directly to the point. Director, there has been a rear-end collision on XX Road. Do you need to handle it? Ah. What else can't you handle? The sound of the traffic director's confusion came from the phone, and the next second, the sound of drinking tea came. The traffic police captain, who tried to pull his arm out of Wang Xing's arms, spoke directly in the shortest possible language. Specifically, a Ferrari rear-ended a tank, and the owner of the tank demanded compensation of 1 million yuan from the Ferrari owner. Puff. Ah. It's so hot. The traffic police captain listened to the director's painful and soul-wrenching cries on his phone and immediately asked with some concern. Director, are you okay? It's okay. It's just a small problem, hiss. The traffic police captain noticed that the director's voice seemed sharper than before. It seems that in order to shift the awkward topic, the director's voice was first heard on his phone. Have you confirmed the authenticity of the tank? Is it a camouflage model made by putting wooden decorations on the vehicle? I don't think so. The traffic police captain turned his head and glanced at the tank gun aimed at everyone. In the sunlight, the matte black paint reflected a chilling light. No, I can be very certain that this is the real thing. Is that so? The voice of the director on the phone fell silent, and then he spoke inexplicably. You should first control the surroundings on site and be careful not to let idle people approach. I will contact the military district and arrive at the scene as soon as possible. Yes. The traffic police captain replied that although he wanted to salute, his hand was still in Wang Xing's arms and he couldn't pull it out. Hanging up his phone, the traffic police captain gave up fighting with Wang Xing and turned his head to look at Luran, who was watching the play in his pocket. Mr. Lu, right. What can I do for you? Luran put his hands in his pockets and nodded with a relaxed expression. Seeing Luran's easy-going appearance, the traffic police captain also breathed a sigh of relief, thinking to himself that he should be very easy-going. Mr. Lu, I'm not sure if you can turn the direction of the gun towards people, it's really a bit dangerous. It's easy to say. Luran nodded, but there was no action he wanted to adjust. When the traffic police captain first cast a puzzled expression, he only heard Luran inquire. When can the army come? Ah. It's hard to say, but if something like this happens, it should arrive soon, right? Is that so? Luran silently turned around and adjusted the position of the tank's turret back, looking at the large killing weapon tank he had personally crafted. I am looking forward to the military district's reaction when they see this tank. What Luran is most looking forward to is the expression of the platoon leader who hung up his phone, hoping to give him a good slap in the face. At this moment, Captain Wang, who had hung up Luran's phone, was sitting on a chair in the office with a big mouth. He just learned the whole story from his own nephew. Neglecting the racing segment where he was very angry, there were a few points in the following that made him very concerned. The first point is about a tank driving on a road in the suburbs of Modu. This may happen in other countries, but it is absolutely impossible for flower growers even in the suburbs. Captain Wang is confident that tanks will be monitored as soon as they appear on the road. The second point is a description proposed by his nephew Zhang Jiahe. In Zhang Jiahe's description, the giant tank advanced at a speed of at least 100 km per hour on the road. The reason for this judgment is that Zhang Jiahe's speed of 80 miles was easily overtaken at that time. The first time Captain Wang heard this statement, he thought it was a lie. Nima, that's a tank. Do you think it's a sedan? It can run at a speed of over 110 per hour. The fastest tank in the world is not as outrageous. The third point, which is also what Captain Wang thinks is the most ridiculous. That's why the mobile phone camera couldn't capture the existence of this tank. No matter what you're joking about, even the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stealth fighter jets can't do this. Captain Wang pinched his slightly protruding temple. That's ridiculous. Uncle, the call of Zhang Jiahe on his phone brought back the thoughts of Captain Wang drifting towards the distance. Looking at the beaten face on the phone screen, Captain Wang frowned and said, Jiahe, turn the camera towards the tank and let me take a look at that tank. Whether it's true or not, we need to see it with our own eyes to determine. But uncle, I've already said that phones can't capture that tank. Don't talk about such fooling things. Before Captain Wang could finish speaking, he got stuck because on his phone screen, he saw his nephew's hand continuously tapping on the air, but the sound of metal being struck inexplicably flew out of the phone speaker. Bang, bang, bang. Uncle, have you seen it? I really can't take a picture. Zhang Jiahe's hand in the phone kept groping in the transparent air, as if there were really some giant objects visible there. Oh. By the way, uncle, you'll know by looking at this. The camera swayed as Zhang Jiahe ran, causing Captain Wang to feel a bit uncomfortable, but soon he forgot about the discomfort. Even his whole body was stuck on the small screen of his phone. Uncle, this is the place where Ferrari rear-ended the tank. The only part of the entire tank that can be captured by the camera. Surprisingly, it's true. Captain Wang stood up trembling with his body, his tone also trembling with excitement. Uncle, your current position. Immediately. Immediately. Tell me. I'll lead the team over immediately. Zhang Jiahe, who was on the opposite side of the phone, was startled by the suddenly roaring Captain Wang and immediately spoke out of his position. Captain Wang, who obtained the location, immediately hung up on video and rushed out of the office, while also making phone calls to start shaking people. First row, second row, stop training now. Follow me, big task. The speed of military action can be described as lightning. When Captain Wang came down from the fourth floor, 2 rows of people were already standing on the nearby playground. The vehicles used for transportation also slowly approached from a distance. Captain. Captain. Just as Captain Wang was preparing to board the train and depart, a liaison officer ran out of the building. Speak up. The director of transportation called to inquire if there is a tank outside the military district carrying out missions. Upon hearing this, Captain Wang's heart sank. It's bad. Has this matter already spread? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.